right. So let's talk about how we transition customers into clients. So it's that space in between when you have an interested buyer or seller, and then we need to get them to that commitment phase that we're ready to sign a rep agreement or a listing agreement.
Well, pretty much. Most of the time, we get a lot of our clients through our Google business page. When they contact us up, they're asking us, you know, hey, I've never bought a house before, or we're moving into the area. What do we need to do? How do we need to do it? And we take the first probably, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes to try to figure out what their plan is. They want to know, a little bit about the area. We talk to them a little bit about the area. We ask them qualifying questions. We also, tell them that every area has a personality, just like every house has a personality, just like every client has a personality, and kind of go over and start. We start developing that relationship with them. And so what happens is that we tell them that the first thing that we want to do is we want to find out what type of budget that they're on. Okay. For example, if you've never bought a house before and you don't know where to start, we need to try to get you with a lender that can help you figure out what type of budget you're on, because we don't want you looking at a $500,000 home or $400,000 home and you're not qualified for that. So we have a lender that we work together very closely. He knows what we do and how we do it. He knows our process, and we explain to the buyer or to the potential client that we want to get him in contact with them and give them some certain information that will help them figure out what type of budget that they're on. Okay. So
Yeah, so go ahead.
once we've done that, we get back with them, and then we set up a time that we can sit down and meet with them face to face, so that way we can explain our process to them and explain to them how we're going to help them and guide them throughout the whole process of purchasing their home.
Yeah. So what does that look like when you feel like you've had a promising conversation and say it's a local buyer, so you're able, like, you have access to them on a regular basis. It's not somebody that's trying to relocate where you don't see them regularly. Where, like, you have a promising conversation, but it just kind of feels like there's some friction. Like there you just can't seem to get it to move forward. So how do you approach that with particular clients? So, like, you want to make sure that you're guiding them smoothly, but not like word vomiting on them with a bunch of real estate jargon. So, like, how do you get from that promising conversation where we feel good on our side, but the buyer just is like still just either afraid? Like, how do you go about finding out what that next step is for them?
Well, when you're first having that initial conversation with your potential client, you want to try to find something that's in common with them. Pick up on little things in the conversation, such as, they want a white picket fence, or anything. It could be where they moved from, where they're from, anything about their employment. Try to figure out something in their personal life that you can relate to. This is a relationship building business, okay? And there are some people that you just are not going to be able to connect with. And then there's some people that you can't wait to get them out of your car. There's going to be some people that you can really relate with their life story, okay? And a lot of people are, there's pushy people out there. There's people out there that have no clue anything about real estate. They don't know what to do, where to start. But then you have some people out there that are pretty savvy in it, and they're all about the business. What's next? What's next? What's next? And so you want to be able to try to relate to them in a way, and kind of try to match their personality. Sometimes that's kind of hard to do without you looking like a moron. But um, it, you have to figure out and cultivate and work on that relationship. Try to find something in common with them, something that they can see. Oh yeah, like for example, great example. Okay, I'm a military vet. All right, most military vets they tend to they tend to attach themselves to another vet. Oh, I know this guy's going to take care of me. Okay, I know this guy's going to take care of me. My wife is a nurse, and when they say, "Well, I'm in the nursing field," or "I did this," or I worked in this," or well, my wife says, Dawn goes, "Hey, I'm a retired nurse of 30 years," and it's because she has that coddling effect. Me, I'm all about the business. Okay, her, she's all about making sure that the client is she listens to them and she is she can connect with them in a way that and she has a personality about her that people can just come and they just attach themselves. They feel comfortable. And the biggest thing, you just got to listen. You have to listen and learn because if you don't listen, you might miss something from them. Something that it's important to them, but they would never think that you would even pick up on it.
Yeah.
That's how you connect.
Yeah, something that's really good for my business that I do. It's not necessarily different, but it's how I feel most comfortable in my business is to be a real person. I feel like that a lot of times that some people put agents or real estate agents on a pedestal that we think we're better than everybody else and that because, we make big commission checks or whatever, that we just think we're the hot stuff. And I'm not that cool of a person.
Let me
I'm
interject.
like, I'm real. I've got weird
Yeah.
stuff on my shelves back here. Like I'm just a real
Yeah.
person. I've got kids,
Well,
like I'm just like them, but I can help you get through this real estate transaction and give you some dark humor in the process if that's your thing.
yeah, I get that. And the thing is that unfortunately, in this business, we are looked upon as a step above a used car salesman.
Yeah.
Okay. And simply, and because the realtors are portrayed as people that, oh, you just unlock a house and you might do some paperwork and, and then, but you get paid all this money. People don't understand the intricacies of what we really do, why we get paid what we get paid. We're no different than a lawyer. We're no different than a doctor. We're no different than any other professional out there that carries a license to spend your money. Okay. So, they don't understand what we have to do in the background because as we're teaching our clients to the process of home ownership, whether you're buying or selling, there's a process to both. And they don't understand all the headaches that we and negotiations and the people that we call and talk to and they have no clue about what happens in the background simply because they're going about their own day. They're going about their own day, and they're going to work. They're taking off in the evenings, and they're doing this and doing that with their family and stuff. We're sitting here sweating bullets because we don't know whether a house is going to come in, what needs to come in, or we're sweating bullets because what's the deal with the home inspection? How are we going to be able to negotiate that out? Or how are we going to, structure this offer that's going to help them win the bid if you're in a multiple offer situation, or how you're going to or how you're going to be able to convince the seller to take your deal.
Yeah.
So they have
And I
no
think people
clue
don't
about all this.
realize, I also think people don't realize how much, and I hesitate to say team effort because that leans towards like real estate team, but I mean like the transaction team because it's not just you and I as real estate agents that are guiding a transaction, but you've got to rope in a lender and you've got to rope in title and everybody needs to work together like harmoniously to be able to get everything to closing. And there's some stuff on the back end that the clients don't sometimes don't know about because we just handle it and everything's taken care of.
Well, especially in the title side of it, because it's so important that, especially on the home inspection side, the title side, the appraisal side, the lender side, we I love the fact that we run our company kind of like a law firm because I kind of see us as we're the we are the realtors that defend our clients, okay, to the end, whether and whether good or bad. And we're the ones that are always having to convince the judge or the other attorney on the other side, hey, this is a good deal. This is why we need to do this. And they say, well, how do you get paid? Well, we get our professional fee, and I hate the word commission. Hate
It's
it.
every
But
realtor's favorite C word.
yeah, uh, I I look at it as a professional fee because we are professionals at what we do. Why we do what we do is because we have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the time under our belt to be able to counsel others because we have a license. Like I said before, we have a license to spend their money. All right, we are sworn in, not sworn in, but we go to school, we get the education, we get we have a background check, and we get licensed to the state of Tennessee to help people spend their money. That's pretty much what we do. Okay. And in order for us to justify our professional fee, we have to sit down and break down exactly the process of what we do and why we do it. Most agents see their clients as a number. Most agents, because once you turn around and meet that agent, you sign that buyer's representation agreement with that agent, you're all of a sudden handed off to a transaction coordinator. Yes, that agent will sit there and show you a couple of houses and take you around and offer their opinions about this, that, and the other that they don't really know anything about. And once that offer has been consummated, what happens next is you don't ever see that other agent. You deal with their transaction coordinator, or you deal
Mhm.
with somebody, but you don't see that other agent until closing. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
What we do, what I train our agents to do, is I want them to know anything and everything about the transaction process, the home buying or home selling process, and that process consists of understanding what a mortgage is, understanding the different programs that are out there, understanding what they're going to need during that process of finding out what type of budget that they have. We got to have 2 years tax returns. We got to have 2 years W-2s. We got to have, the last 2 months of bank statements of all accounts that you have, whether it's a 401k, savings account, whatever, IRA, whatever. We got to have two most recent check stubs or 30 days worth of check stubs from your employment. That's what the lender is going to require just to get a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification, because there's a difference in those. A pre-qualification is where you're just telling them that something verbally, and you might not be able to back it up. A pre-approval is where you've told them what you're doing, what you're making. You've proven what you're making, and it's gone through pre-underwriting. He's put
Yeah.
all the information. He's put all the information in the computer, and boom, he's got this, he's got that. He can verify. He can verify your pay. He can verify. He looks at your credit. He does he does all of this stuff, and then he tells you, based on what you have supplied me, I'm able to give you your budget of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of look at that as like the pre-qualification is you can go online and put your stuff into a calculator and it'll tell you based on just that what you've done. But that pre-approval is so key because you've taken the steps. It tells us as realtors who's serious,
Right.
and not just who's trying to check a box to get ready to go. But yeah, just like I identify as like, there are some agents that are sharks and they're out to get the deal and they're hungry and like, they fight tooth and nail for what feels like no reason. I'm more of a bear. I'm pretty docile until you start causing trouble and then and then I start to be a little crazy. But yeah, I just feel like there are a lot of clients and people that they have that bad taste in their mouth for real estate agents because they just they've seen all the negative that agents do and they feel rushed and they feel overwhelmed, and just that's another thing that I bring to my business is just trying to make it as calm of a process as possible, with a huge asterisk on that, because real estate transactions are crazy stressful. There's nothing about that that's going to change, but I don't want to add more to the drama by being someone that rushes when the client needs a pause. Like when they need that permission to be like, I'm worried and I need to move forward, but I don't know what to do. Like I'm happy to sit in that pause with the client to make sure that they're making the best decision that they can with the best information that they can get.
Our job, Marcia, as a realtor, is not only to help guide you and advise you and teach you throughout the whole thing. Our job is to accumulate all of the research. Our job is to accumulate all the research on whether it's a house or whether it's a situation, and we bring all this research to our clients, and we sit down with them, and they say, okay, here's A, B, and C. Okay, here's the pluses and the minuses of A, here's the pluses and the minuses of B, and here's the pluses and the minuses of C. All right. With me bringing you all this information and letting you and explaining all the information to you, that's our job, because, and so that you can go, so that you can make an educated decision. That is the reason why we do what we do. We're just pretty much information gatherers. Now, you'll have some clients that say, "Well, I see A, B, and C, and I see the pluses and the minuses of each. Which one do you think I should take?" I can't answer that for you. You should never, ever, ever, ever tell them that.
Yeah.
That give them, the, and if they keep pushing you on that, what you do is you say, "Okay, break it down some more. All right, here's the plus of this," and keep breaking it down as much as you can. And
Mhm.
sometimes people, it's not happening for them, or they're not getting it, and we continue to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until all of a sudden a light bulb goes off in their head. Oh, I get it now. You know,
Yeah, I think sometimes when you find yourself in that situation, you have a client that's afraid to make a mistake, but they don't know how to say that. Because, like, there's a lot of jargon in the real estate industry. And when we're discussing mortgages and, the market and up and like all the things that they're like, what are you talking about? And then you present the stuff and it's easy. And like you break it down and you break it down. I feel like sometimes they're just afraid to make a mistake. So they default to what the professional recommends. But when it comes to real estate, it's not like medicine where there's like a standard, protocol for treating strep throat. Like, you can't just go get antibiotics to buy a house. But, there's 100 million different ways to buy and sell a house. I could walk you through every single scenario, but you're going to leave more confused. So that's part of my job too, is like to identify when that client feels like that they're making a mistake, but alleviate and just to bring clarity to the situation. So that way they feel empowered to make the decision that's right for them. Because what I would choose
and
may not be
that's
what they want to choose.
right. And that's where I'm talking about cultivating that relationship with them and understanding where they're coming from, have a little bit of empathy and some discernment, and put yourself in their shoes. Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of agents don't do that. All they care about is, I'm behind on my bills and I got to get this sold because I need the money in order to do this. That's where you're going to screw up. Okay.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that with our company, that if you're in it to chase the money and if you're in it just for the money, I'm not interested in having you.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I don't want that, because then at that point you become a liability to me and become a liability to our company and our colleagues that are around us that do practice real estate the way it's supposed to be practiced. You see, one of the I said before, realtors are looked upon unfavorably as a step above a used car salesman. What we are trying to do as a company is to change the look of how realtors are perceived in today's market, and well, actually, in
Mhm.
today's times, because real estate is supposed to be practiced the old-fashioned way. I know you don't like that word old-fashioned, but real estate is supposed to be practiced in such a way that it's very informative. You've got to learn to listen. And you've got to learn to guide them and teach them because we are a teaching firm. That's what we do. Uh, Realtors are really supposed to be teachers, okay?
Yeah.
And if you don't have to like people, which if you don't like people, I don't understand why you're in this business, but okay. Uh, but you've got to love to teach people. Um, I love watching my agents become successful. To me, that's a high. When I have agents that come in here and literally blow it out, and we do have some agents that kick butt and blow it out, I'm proud of them. I always try to tell them how proud I am of them because I know I had a part in doing that because
Mhm.
I trained them the right way. Sometimes I train them so good. I have other companies that try to take my agents because they know that they were trained properly and correctly and know how to fill out an offer all the way through, and they're professional from one end to the other. Well, that's the reason why we do what we do. We have the word professionals in our name. And that's why I guess you can say, Dawn gets so mad at me. She goes, I'm so tired of Knoxville being the best kept secret. Knoxville real estate professionals, best kept secret. Look, honey, we've been featured in Forbes. We've been featured in USA Today. We've been featured in Entrepreneur. People know who we are. Okay. The name itself, when people are looking to come to the area, our website comes up first on the page because number one, it's got Knoxville in it. Number two, it's got professional in real estate. And everything that has to do with real estate or the word real estate or agent or anything, our company comes up. And so, and that's, we're getting, people are starting to know who we are and what we're about. But when they call us, we can let our knowledge and bragging about who we are and what we're about. It's what we do. Okay. I got off the phone with Dogwood Arts Festival here a little while ago, and I said, hey, and he's like, I can't believe more realtors don't sign up for this. I'm like, yeah, right now you're the only one. I said, well, we had two others at the home show. They didn't really do much, but I had a phenomenal strategic marketing strategist that designed this thing the way it's supposed to be designed. And I think we did, even though we didn't do a lot of business, we didn't do a lot of business, but we got our name out there. And that was important to me. And I told him, I said, Shannon, always be willing to do what no other realtor wants to do nor will do. That's why we are as successful as we are. And when I train my agents that way and teach them and show them and guide them, what happens is that they start to become successful. And when they start becoming successful, I know I had a part in that. We
Mhm.
all as a team had a part in that. And they don't realize it until later on down the road. And I say, where were you last year? Where are you this year? See how much you've grown? Now, if you haven't grown, maybe we need to go back to school and figure something out.
Yeah, let's go back and learn some more things. Yeah,
Right.
it's that's one of the unspoken pieces I feel like that people don't understand that realtors do because there are so many out there that are just like do the calls, do the get on the phone, you're missing opportunity and like, it's all about the hustle. And I
Yeah.
honestly feel like that if we're representing somebody in one of the largest financial transactions of their life, that's not a time to hustle. Like if you're building a relationship and I'm about to give you license to sell a $500,000 property or $1 million property, that's not small. That's a lot of money. And if I'm giving over license for somebody to do that, I want to make sure that they've got my best interest at heart. Obviously, I want them to be paid for the job that they're doing. That's no secret. Like, you got to get paid for the work that you do. But I also don't want to find you scheming and doing some shady stuff, on the back end that you have no, like, because you don't know me, like, I don't want to play that game. So it's important to me to be just me.
Yeah. Well, and kind of to add on to what you were saying, we're talking about, how we get paid. When you go to a doctor's office and you go through and hey, you got to have surgery. Okay. Well, do you negotiate that out? Do you negotiate the price of that out? No. It is what it is. I mean, it's what the doctor's visit is this. The hospital bill is this. Your drugs are this. And so, but can you say, well, can we negotiate that out? Oh, sure. How about I do this? I'll just make an incision and call it a day. This is
Yeah.
how much that costs. Okay. When you go to a lawyer's office, okay, and you're having a dispute, or you're having any kind of legal matter, and you're having to retain a lawyer, your retainer is going to cost you anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000, 10,000, probably even more, depending on the type of case that you have. When you look at the attorney and you say, and the attorney tells you, well, my retainer is going to be $10,000. What are you going to do for that $10,000? I says, every time I touch your file, or you call me, you text me, I have to do any kind of paperwork for you or anything else. This is what I charge an hour. I charge anywhere from 250 to 350 an hour. And this right here is going to probably take me about 40 hours. This is what my retainer is going to be, and if it's anything above over the retainer, you'll have to pay the rest. People, and same thing with a CPA. CPA does the same thing. For example, even your position, even your position with a company, you have a scope of work that you've given out. Okay, this is for this amount of money. This is what I do for this amount of money. If there's anything else, it's going to cost me extra. It's no different in the real estate business. And you always got, you have agents out there that are always undercutting themselves, and they're underselling themselves, because and that's not, number one, that tells me you're not strong. You don't want to be strong.
Mm.
You don't care. You're chasing the money.
Yeah.
Concentrate on your client. Listen. Stop worrying about how much money you're going to make. Stop worrying about this. Stop worrying about that. Concentrate on your client and your client only. Because guess what? I don't care if it's a $60,000 lot purchase, or a $500,000 home, or even $1 million home. Everybody gets the same process. Everybody does the same thing, gets the same amount of service. And sooner or later, you're going to look back and it's like, wow, I got 5 deals out of that one person because I concentrated on them, and my professional fee went out the window because all I cared about was them. Because sooner or later, you're going to work with a $60,000 client and you're only going to make a couple of $100. Okay, big deal. But that $60,000 client sends you 5 other people, all because you put them first,
Yeah.
not the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Put your client first, the money will come. Kind of like the Field of Dreams movie. You
Yeah.
build it, they will come. So that, I feel like that's a lot of the mentality that a lot of realtors are lacking anymore, because they don't care. Yes,
Yeah.
there are big companies out there. They're big name companies. You got big name realtors out there. They're not really working with their client. They're they're they have the big name because of name recognition, because they spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars reinventing themselves all the time. Okay, and spending all this money out there for name recognition.
Mm.
Okay, and but and then when the client gets them, say, wow, guess what? I'm not going to say any names on this, but I heard you were the best. I hear you on the radio and see you on the TV all the time. Blah 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 blah. Okay, that's fine. And then they sign with them, and then all of a sudden they don't see them again until closing. That's just what I talked about
Mm.
earlier. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Honestly, that also is something that people don't recognize as well. Because like they're expecting agents to do what we do, which is guide through the process and make sure that we are, representing our client, which is what our license allows for us to do. But I
mhm,
feel like most real estate agents now focus more on lead gen, and they become a lead gen engine And so they have like thousands upon thousands of names coming in from all kinds of different sources. Well, one person can't filter through that effectively. So you've got to have a team of people because you became a lead gen source, your name did. And while that's important to cultivate business and that's important to fill your pipeline, where is John Seller gonna be a year from now? Do you think he's gonna remember that, you know, this guy was the one that, he got connected with first? I don't know, probably not. And also another thing that people don't realize is not every realtor is suited for the type of transaction that you're having to do. Because like if you've got like an estate sale, or if you've got like something that's in probate or a family farm that needs to be subdivided, or you work with investors, like every realtor has their like little niche power, whatever, that where they shine very well in certain transactions, but nobody really thinks about that. So it's like something that you would be good at, I may not be good at, and vice versa.
Well, yeah, and then you have some realtors. I mean, look, when I first got into this business in 2002, and I've been in it for 25 years this year, and I would do anything I can get my hands on. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to be well versed in everything. And for years, I couldn't get above a certain sales price. And so but then I had to kind of change my way of thinking a little bit. And so in order to, and that's why I'm kind of like self-taught. I've been in this business for so long, because you have a lot of realtors out there that decide they want to get out of the business and reinvent themselves and write a book about their sales experience and hey, you should do this and you should do that, blah 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 blah. And it's
Mm,
kind of like, okay, you're in California, you're down at South Miami-Dade, you're in New York. What works in these all these different areas doesn't work in our little bubble here of East Tennessee.
yeah,
So, but they do have some bits of nuggets of gold that you can kind of take here and take there and put it together. And nobody taught me how to correctly run a transaction desk to where I can write an offer. Nobody taught me how to do. I mean, yeah, I went to class and learned what this went, what this meant, what that meant, where to put this and where to put that, and all this other stuff. But over the years, and this is what makes a good realtor. Take what you've learned and practice it. If you something went wrong, okay, tweak it, make sure you go learn from that mistake. Don't do it again and file it away and remember that. Being a good realtor is understanding, listening, learning, comprehending, retaining what you have learned. If you make a mistake, retain that mistake. So that way in the future, when that comes up again, and it will, you'll know how to handle that. Okay.
yeah,
I mean, since COVID, I mean, I had been in the business so long, and when COVID happened, it was like, man, I was learning things and understanding, and things were slapping me in the face, like, wow, I didn't know, I've been doing this for a long time, and didn't know that would ever happen, and it does.
mm-hmm,
So you will get into situations to where it's you won't think it'll ever come up again, but at least you know how to handle it when it does. Every
yeah,
realtor has issues. When you first got in this business, and I was teaching you through the whole process of it, and your first couple of deals, you just wanted to pull your hair out, and it's like, no, 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 just chill, relax. And I've had some real doozies of the deal of transactions that I've had to work the last several years. I mean, my wife, Dawn was still working as a nurse, and she would get all frustrated because she'd take these clients out, she'd show them all over the place, and then I'd be in the office while she's at work, and she says, "Hey, can you go? Can you show them this house? I just found this house. They want to go see it." I'm like, "Oh, sure, honey. I'll go." I says, "I'll have an offer on the table here by this afternoon." And she, "Yeah, right. Whatever." I'd go show them a house, talk to them about the house, do an actual walkthrough, talk to them, show them, listen to them, blah blah blah, blah, yada yada yada. And by the time she got home and said, "Yeah," I said, "Sure, we're real good. Yeah, I just wrote an offer on it." Boy, I used to make her so mad. Even a third client, you know, she'd be having trouble trying to get him, trying to get him to the table, and here I am making it happen. But she has learned throughout. She's been a broker now for over 10 years, and so she's learning now. And I'm so proud of her because she has listened to me do the spiel, spiel, spiel every time we turn around, especially when we would go out and take clients out on tours. And now I can, it's almost like I can be the chauffeur now, and she is just repeating everything that I've taught her. To me, she's become successful because I had a part in that. And I've seen some of our other agents do the same thing. And let me tell you, that to me is the most rewarding thing that I can see happening, because then I know that they're listening. Then I know that they're taking what I'm teaching them to heart, and they're becoming successful. And to
Yeah.
me, that is the ultimate high for me, is to watch my agents become successful, because you know if they become successful, they won't go anywhere else.
Yeah. And ultimately, like the clients are the ones that benefit from that because we're taking the time to get to know them and learn, well, what's the difference between a 3 bedroom and a 4 bedroom house for them? Well, maybe they're planning to grow their family, or maybe they need an office, but that's not really something that they disclose when they just say, oh, we need 4 bedrooms. But once you
Well,
spend time with them, you see why those 4 bedrooms are important. You see why the backyard's important. You see why all of this stuff's important. And so when you're at that showing and that transition from the money talk, the responsibility, and they start viewing like, oh, well, we could put our antique desk in this place, we could put this there, and they start envisioning their life in that home, that's where you're like, okay, this lead just went from a soft lead to a hot lead, and we're going to be writing a contract soon. So I
well,
love that feeling as well.
well. The other thing that you got to look at too is that you always want to, especially with first-time home buyers that are they're just coming into wanting to be a homeowner. We teach them, hey, look, the average American family buys a house anywhere from 3 to 5 houses in their lifetime. Okay, the your first house, you're just getting established. You're getting established in home ownership. You're getting established in mortgage relationships. You're getting established. You're learning how to maintenance a home. You're learning how to pay a mortgage. You're learning how to do all these things. That's where you want to start your family. And then next thing you know, you started your family. A couple of years later down the road, you're like, hey, I'm busting at the seams. I got to have something bigger.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, so then they contact, and it's important for you to keep in contact with them. So they're going to come back to you and say, hey, you know what, Marcia, you did such a good job helping us last time, and you really taught us a lot of things, and now we know what we really want, what we need, and will you help us to find something better? I'm like, sure. And you'll be like, sure. So then, you'll put their house on the market, and you'll sit down, and they'll make a list of their needs and their wants and their desires. So the second house that they buy, that's where they're going to finish raising their kids at. That's where they're going to, the kids are finally going to, they grow up, they go to high school, they graduate high school, go to college. Next thing you know, they're getting married. You've got grandkids coming. And then all of a sudden we wake up one morning, it's like, hey, the house is just too damn big for us. It's too much of a maintenance thing. I'm tired of dealing with the maintenance. And then it's like, okay, then they contact you back and say, hey, Marcia, you helped us on the first house, you helped us on the second house. Now the kids are grown and gone. Guess what? We're tired of dealing with all the maintenance on it. The house is just too big. We want to downsize a little bit, and we want to be able to go travel and do whatever we want to do. We're retired now. Okay, sure. So then you help them buy that third house, which I call the toe tag house. Last house you ever gonna own. So, but and the difference between the third house and the fifth house would be, it could be life happens, whether it could be a job transfer, it could be a divorce, it could be a death, or it could be a vacation home. It could be any of those. All right. But on average, it's 3 to 5 houses in their lifetime. So, but that's what we do. And by teaching the process and cultivating that relationship and staying in touch with them throughout the years, because I had a lady call me and said, "Hey, you sold my mom and dad's house like 18 years ago. Can you come help list it?" I'm like, I was with Century 21 at that time. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's like when they followed you and they're like, "Oh, what was the name of that guy? Oh, that's him. Let's see if he's still in." And like that's a win right there.
Right. And so, I mean, a lot of people, referrals is the name of the game. And we talk about, first getting started in this business is hard. It really is. It is hard. And you got to get out there with social media, and you got to get out there with getting your face out there, and that takes time. A lot of agents get upset because, well, I've been here for 3 months and I haven't got anything. Well, okay, what are you doing? What do you? And I tell them then, I said, guys, if you want to, you've got to work your sphere of influence. That's one. Two, you got to tell your story. Tell
Mm,
your story. Why did you get into real estate? What made you get into real estate? And be honest with yourself. If you got into real estate because you wanted to make a whole bunch of money and because you thought it was cool, you're going to fail. All right. Dawn wanted to get into real estate not just because her husband's a broker. She wanted to get into real estate because when she moved down here, her experience was horrible. It
mm,
was just it was just horrible. And she wanted to make a difference. And I thought, okay. And she did make it. She does make a difference because that's how she relates to people is, you know, tell your story. Who, you know, for example, who is Marsha Inkelbarger? Why did you get into this business? What is it about this business that interests you? Tell us your story. It could have been a bad experience. It could have been a good experience. It could have been I just needed a change in I needed a change in careers because I was I was writing title insurance over here and I was seeing all this garbage that goes on in title. I was like, you know what? That's I think I can help with that. So everybody has a story. And if they can tie that into why they decided to become a realtor, that and then get it out there, and it takes a while. It does. It takes a good while. People when we opened up our company, they watched us for 2 years because they didn't think we were going to last more than 2 years. Hey, guess what? We've been in business now for 8 years. Okay,
yeah.
and it's all because we changed our mindset. Everybody in the world is a millionaire. Okay, and when you step outside your door, that's your bank. All you have to do is figure out how to make your withdrawals. Once you have figured that out and you've made that commitment and you're able to overcome the adversities of that commitment, then and only then will you be able to reap the rewards from it. That's one of the reasons why I teach my agents adversity only lasts for just a brief moment in the grand scheme of life. And this is why commitment always precedes the reward. Every realtor, it doesn't matter whether you're a realtor, doctor, lawyer, blue collar worker, whatever you do for a living, you face adversity on a daily basis as soon as your feet hit the floor until your head hits the pillow at night. It's how you overcome that adversity is what's going to dictate what the type of reward that you're going to get. But it's all up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a rewarding it's such a rewarding thing to be able to work with clients and help bring clarity to that transaction and get them from customer to client and work through that transaction with them because I've found that, conversions don't really increase because we push harder. Like they increase because conversations become clear and they're able to make the best decisions for themselves.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a young couple that came to me as a referral from another client that he works with, and It was a young couple. They never, they already had one child, and they were pregnant with another one. And they were looking, and I guess we must have shown them, and this was during COVID. I guess we must have shown them, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 houses, and they got beat out on every one. I knew the type of budget that they had, but this particular house was at right at the top of their budget. And we go and show them the house, and we get there, and it was showing on top of showing on top of showing. I mean, people were going in and out of this house like you wouldn't believe, and the owners were parked down the street watching all this happen to their house,
Yeah.
And so we're going in, and the little boy, um, it fit them to a T. It checked every box on their list, and it was what they wanted, but they were so intimidated because everybody was in that house. I mean, we were passing by people going up and down the stairs just to go down to the basement, and they were, the wife was there. She was all excited, but in their mind they were like, we want to put an offer on this, but it's right at the top of our budget. What are we going to do? I mean, if we don't get it? I guess we just, maybe we quit for a while, or maybe we'll wait till something else comes up, try to get there before they do. And I thought to myself, well, okay, I don't like doing cry letters, because sometimes that can be misconstrued in some ways. But in this particular instance, these were good kids. He's a hard
Hmm.
worker. She was working. They had one child. They had one child. One was on. Well, as we were showing them the house and we were walking around, the little boy was in the driveway picking up rocks and playing with rocks and stuff. And he would walk up to the stairs and put them on the stair railing, the porch railings. And his daddy got on to him about it, and he made him take the rocks off the railing and throw them back in the driveway again. And so before they left, they said, let's just take a shot. I said, okay, we'll take a shot. I come home, I'm sitting in my office, I'm writing up the offer, and I thought, so I called his wife up and I said, give me a cry letter. I said, tell me why you want this house. Why do you feel that you should be the best one for this house? Tell me the story. Tell me your story. Well, she did. She wrote one that I didn't expect. So I sent the offer. In. The next day, the agent calls me up and he said, "Hey, got a couple questions for you." And I said, "Sure." You were at the house yesterday, right? I said, "Yeah." You showed them these people, right? I said, "Yes." He said, "Did your client have a little boy that was putting rocks on porch banister?" Yeah, his dad kind of got on about it. I'm sorry. She goes, because the sellers were parked down the street and saw that. And I was like, man, I hope that
Yeah,
didn't
you're
offend
immediately like, oh gosh, like we've
you.
got a
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. So he says, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Okay. He calls me back and he says, John, I'm literally blown away. I'm like, what do you mean? You were not the highest offer. As a matter of fact, the next offer above you was several thousands more than what the list price was. I said, well, you see this, yeah. But the seller decided to take your offer. Excuse me? Yeah, they were parked down the street and watched this little boy put rocks on their banister, on their porch banister. And they asked me if this was the offer. And I just got back with them and told them, yes, it was. They took your offer because her memory of her daughter doing the same thing, because this was their
Oh,
home. So that was it was so meaningful and it was important. So, and I just started breaking down. So then what happened is I didn't know what I was just you could have just blown me over with a feather. And they signed it, sent it to me, for me to bind, and I had it in my hand, and I called my client, and he answers the phone, and I said, guess what? He goes, I guess we got to look for another one. I said, no, you bought a house. And I explained to him the situation. He was standing beside his boss when I called, who I represented in purchasing a house. He broke down, and his boss was saying, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay?" And because he thought something had happened to in the family, and he looked at him with tears in his eyes, and he says, "We got the house. We got the house." And it was something that, to me, that's the reason I got in this business. That is the reason why I became a realtor. It's times like that. There's another time. There's another time where we helped a lady who never thought she could ever buy a house, ever. Never thought she would ever be able to buy. She was a veteran, living in a woman's shelter, working a
Mm,
full-time job. Never thought she would ever be able to buy. Had two kids, and she was a veteran. And we helped her. We got her. We sent her to our lender, and he got her approved, which we were shocked. We found her a house. We went through the whole process with that, and then we turned around and you know her appraisal was paid for. Her home inspection was paid for. Everything was paid for her. And the day she went to closing, she sat there at the closing table with each child beside her on either side, one on each side, signing her paperwork in tears, bawling, because nobody would give her a chance, the time of day, to even work with her, to teach her, to guide her, to show her what it's about to be a homeowner. And we were the only people that were willing to help her, teach her, and show her.
yeah.
So, and she knew, but the whole step, she knew exactly what she was signing on by the time she got to the closing table, and understood everything about the type of endeavor that she was fixing to go on. That's why we're realtors. That's why we do what we do. And people complain about how much we get paid because of the problems that we have to deal with on the background and the back end that they have no
Yeah.
clue
Oh, but it makes it so
about.
much more sweeter. It makes it so much more sweeter when you have those little stories and you can just find that those little nuggets of people that are just like they're beat down. That's why independent brokerages and boutique brokerages like ours are so important because we take the time to make sure that our clients are well represented and we get those hard conversations. And it's not just about being able to hook them up on the MLS and check some boxes and then get some emails and write an offer. Like that's part of it. But the bigger piece is just being able to be like, yeah, my kid put rocks on the banister, but that won the house.
Yeah,
Like I've been
it
in
brought
that
back a
dad's
memory.
shoes.
It brought back a memory that resonated with that seller, and it just said, "That's who I want to have this house." So
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to be able to listen, to pay attention, and be cognitive of your surroundings and other people's feelings. Very
Yeah.
important.
I'm gonna cut and stop recording
Okay.
because that's a good place.